Hello and welcome to the Tarkis Zone. Yeah, surprisingly, you see another video from Crossout from me. I just wanted to go over this game a little bit more in depth now that I've actually played it some after the patch. Now, I will say that there is still balancing concerns on my part, and power score is playing a little role in that. And I know I had a person comment about my thinking that a 700 power score is different. Well, I did some testing last night, and yeah, it actually could make the difference between being one-shotted and not being one-shotted. Power score seems to play an important role, even though it seems like some people don't think it does. And the other thing I wanted to test with my friend Skycrawler was the fact that by sniping people's kills, would you end up getting more reputation? And that ended up being a yes. That's confirmed. If someone snipes your kills, they end up with more reputation. I'm going to explain why and how we figured that out. Yet stripping parts does get you the greatest amount of reputation. That's okay and dandy. That's the way the system works. But like, say if I run a machine gun build and I'm swiping this guy and I'm ripping parts off him and I'm getting my parts credit. Well, he's running a cannon and he waits until I've hit the guy a couple times, then he one-shots it with that cannon. What happens at that time, he gets the kill for it and he gets all the parts remaining on the rig. So if he times it correctly, he ends up making his parts value. He's not using a machine gun. He's not using anything other than the cannon during this process. And I'm watching the numbers, and there's a few times. And I would say that, that's part of my frustration. I just think, it just needs to be tweaked a little bit. That's all. I mean, that's really where I'm at with it. I thought maybe a combo system, like if I'm raking him with machine guns, and he ends up coming within like 5 or 10 seconds after that and one-shots the guy with his cannon, that we get like a group combo bonus, that we work together to do it bonus. And I think that would solve it. I'm not trying to be petty. I'm just trying, when I do video game reviews or when I talk about video games, I just try to things that kind of drive me bananas sometimes. And I'm not trying to always be MVP. What I'm just trying to figure out is why these guys were playing the style they were playing. It's like they would, and it gets frustrating when you get on a team because the teams are limited, obviously. You only can have so many on each side, and then your team ends up getting a couple of the automated bots, so you really have to rely heavily on the people that are humans that are still on your team, and you got one person who's trying to do the sniping thing. And the thing about it is, it's great and dandy when it's coordinated. Like with Skycrawler and I knew who he was. I knew if I was scraping these guys down, that the cannon was coming in, But most of these guys are lone wolf McQuaiding, and they're just trying to be opportunists, so they're not really getting in the fray all that much. And it is what it is. I'm not, again, I wasn't trying to be petty about it. It just, I just felt that, when I was saying that when you kill a person, you get more credit, I wasn't saying that's how the game broke down the reputation credit. What I was saying is it looks like, look, when someone kills that guy, he's getting parts. Now, Skycrawler last night, we did a few games, and he ended up killing this guy that only had his compartment left. And he only got one parts credit for it. And so that was like, he's like, oh, dude, I only got one parts credit for that. He goes, but when I take people out that are like still almost 100%, I'm getting their whole rig. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's the way they got it going. And it's okay. I mean, I think the game itself has great potential. I mean, I've actually been a person for this game since day one, saying that I don't think it's pay to win. And I was frustrated yesterday because when I got on, and I think what it was is my timing was bad. Because when I got on after the patch uploaded, most of my games, I would say a good 70 of them, I ended up getting AI bots on my team, either 2 or 3 of them. And that was where my frustration was. And then the other team would be almost fully loaded out, or they would be running weapons that seem to be still a little OP. Now, the weapon I'm finding a difficulty with, it's not the detonation bots at this time. It seems like those are under control a little bit. Last night when Skycrawler and I were able to get on, and I was doing my systematic testing while playing games with him, actually everything flowed very well. and I don't think anybody was more OP than anyone else. So I think they balanced that. But the power score thing does still concern us because, again, when you're looking at putting items on your rig, if you don't have the ability to put that extra 4 or 5 items on your rig, that can make a difference. Especially if if you're strategically placing those items in the right place, because they could absorb most of the impact before taking the backup part off. But it is what everybody's got their thoughts on it. I do see that it's more balanced in many ways. Now, the one weapon it seems like was giving us difficulties last night were those stupid homing missiles. And and what I try to do is when I hear them coming in or I hear missiles coming in, I try to get next to structure. And a lot of times the missiles will hit the structure, and that's what's working for me. So if you've got people with those, don't try to get in a way where you're not moving. That's the thing is, don't try to just hide behind a wall because he'll zigzag around the wall. You've got to be moving, and as they come in on you, find something like a structure or a car to be around, or do something so that the missile has a chance to hit the object that's next to you. And I found that works phenomenal. I mean, and I don't really get hit all that often with missiles, but when I do, oh my glory, they do some damage. So last night, and it was just a loadout. There was a couple guys running them, and they were doing like what Skycrawl and I were doing. We were on a team. I could tell they were on a team, and they were systematically just raining missiles down on us. And with that, it seemed OP, and a lot of people were getting discouraged and yelling. And what Skycrawl and I were doing was we were rushing the bases last night, which helped a lot. And we found we were doing these missile guys' game style had to change. They had to reposition and change, and when they did, we took advantage of that and we owned them. So it's a little situational there, depending on how you want to take care of it. But it took us a little of our own butt. They're kicking our butts a few games for us to say, okay, how do we put an end to this nonsense? And we kind of figured it out. But I still think they could be tweaked a little bit. Now, there was a guy running last night that was running lances. Oh my goodness, props to this guy. He's like just blowing into people. I watched him, and I was one of the victims. He's running a cloaking chameleon rig, and it's low. And he's got all these lances on his rig. And what he does is he sneaks up on you. And what he did last night, we were in that map where you got the acid, and we were kind of lined up against the railroad or the railroad cars that are there. Those empty railroad cars, you got the whole path there. Well, we're lined up, perfectly like a bunch of idiots against these things because it's a narrow path. Well, he comes running up behind us, and he's got that item that gives you the jet boost, and he just takes all 4 of us out. I mean, boom, 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 like we were a deck of cards just being blown in the wind. Took all 4. I was the guy in the lead, and when I turned around and saw these rigs full hit points, the battle barely beginning kind of thing. Like we were kind of throwing a little machine guns and rockets in their direction, and it was like one of those standoff things, but the standoff hadn't been that long. It might have been like maybe 15, 16 seconds, and this guy knew what we were doing. We were just kind of going to trade fire. He did the smart thing. He came behind us, and then he just rolled that lane with those, and we thought, oh my goodness, what a build. And then he ended up doing that like game after game after game, just mowing people down. So that seemed a little OP. Now that builds situational. You really need to know what you're doing because everything that you are attacking is going to need to be melee and they need to be in front of you. But this guy could drive and you couldn't outrun him. Once he was behind you, you was as good as dead. You couldn't outrun him. With the rig he was running was already fast, and then he would hit his boosters, and then he would just mow you right down. I mean, it was crazy. So what we ended up doing, or what I ended up deciding to do, was take him out of the game because I knew who he was. When he was on the other team, I would go find him and I would hit him. I would run in him in a systematic way that would take out all his damn lances, and that's how I took care of him. So Skycrawler's like, "You dead already?" I said, "Yeah, but he's got like one lance left." I mean, because that's what you had to do. I mean, somebody just had to jump on the grenade because this guy was just mowing us down. I mean, he was just mowing us down, and actually it was just comical. I mean, it was people like griping in chat, like, "What is that? That's OP." And I'm like thinking to myself, yeah, it's a little OP, but it's situational. So it's not like, Joe Average is going to come up with this and be able to pull it off. You could even I could probably have cloned his rig. I don't think I could pull the way he plays. I mean, the way he can position himself and he knows all I mean, it's like a work of art. But I was saddened to say, okay, I'm going to find you and I'm going to take you out of the game in the beginning because I was running my fast rig and I was doing that to him, and we started winning more games when he was on the other team because we just knew how to deal with him. Don't let him get behind you, man. Well, that was really it. I mean, I still enjoy, even though I was quite frustrated, I still enjoying it. I did say I was going to stop playing this game for a more balanced PvP game. Well, that frustration went away after Skycrawler got on and said, "Hey, let's just try it together and see what it does. Let's just look at what's going on and try to systematically figure out, what the game is actually doing now after the patch." And I would say that I calmed down a little bit and I found the game to be enjoyable. I have started playing other PvP games that I feel are at this point a little bit more balanced. The Paladins, that's a game that just came out. That's balanced. I mean, right at this point, it's so new that I don't think anybody has figured out any crazy loopholes. It seems quite enjoyable. I'm still playing War Thunder. That seems balanced. I mean, there's a lot to it. The thing about games and balancing, when there's more variables, it's harder to balance, but it doesn't seem as unbalanced when there's more variables. And in this game, there's a lot of variables because people could do their rigs either way, but there's not a lot of variables. So whatever we got kind of gets magnified into, okay, that seems OP or that seems crazy, or but like in a game like Battlefield 1, how do you compare a sniper against an aircraft carrier? I mean, because obviously that's OP. I mean, as a sniper, you don't take on an aircraft carrier. You know what I mean? So it's like those kind of OP situations are accepted and are the norm, I used to play Battlefield a lot, and I would just get in a jet and I would just crash it. I would drive around. I couldn't even really fly the thing all that well, but I would drive it around the best I can, and I would just kamikaze the biggest player or biggest team cluster on the map. And people would get frustrated with me all night long. They're like, "You're not playing the game right." And I'm like, "Well, this is a World War II Japanese version," is what I said. But it was a fun thing to do. But it was OP because if I did it right, I could take out 5 or 6 of them in one landing, and most people would think I would strafe them with missiles. I would do something that would be normal to what a jet plane should be doing. But no, I would do the same thing with the helicopters, with a tank come rolling in and, they got people pinned down. I take the helicopter and just drive it right into the tank. And then in those games, they just let you respawn. So, 12, 13 seconds later, you're alive again, and you go find another helicopter. I mean, or jet plane. I mean, it just kind of was silly. The best game I ever played, in my opinion, was Rainbow Six. It was similar to this game. It was a death match, and it was no more than 3 minutes. It was last man standing. It was a 5-on-5 team, and it was never any bots. They were live players, and each map changed. Each map was unique. And it was fun. You know, you get within 3 minutes. I mean, most matches only lasted maybe my computer decided to go in sleep mode. I got disconnected from the game server because Tarkis is just chatty Cathy today. All right, well, thank you for joining me. This has been the Tarkis Zone.